Great deal of excitement there as this new service went into effect. These new Charger locomotives were initially going to be limited to no more than 79 miles per hour. We have no idea what speed it was going in this particular section when it jumped the tracks here. We don't know if it hit something, if there was some crossing there, but you can see the results here of the trains that have left the track, and some of them spilling over that trestle onto the roadway. This is southbound Interstate 5, and obviously it's busy at any time of day there, but certainly in the morning rush hour. This would be south of Seattle. This would put it between probably Tacoma and Olympia, Washington. There are a number of crews on the scene. This is a mass casualty, as Tom Costello pointed out, and Tom continues to monitor some of the information coming out of the region. What do you have, Tom?
Well, again, to reiterate, this was train 501, and it was this brand new 14-mile stretch of track, we believe, from Tacoma down to Olympia. At this point, the information is sketchy. We don't have a number of people who may be injured or potential fatalities. We do know that they have multiple fire rescue and ambulances moving into that location and already on the scene. 250 people reportedly have been on board this train, and it was such a big deal this inaugural day that the local station there had been doing the coverage on their morning news, interviewing people who were excited about starting the day on this brand new train line, on this express train line. So we'll have to see what the cause may be. You know, they don't open up these brand new train lines without extensive testing and high-speed testing. So exactly what the cause may be, we simply don't know. Yeah, and some of what I've been reading, Tom, they were equipped with this positive train control that you have discussed so many times in terms of an added safety feature on that area. I want to go back to King 5 in Seattle. They're talking to a witness now. Let's listen.
Devastating, and definitely looks like there's a lot of big mess and stuff going down, and it's very devastating schematic to see down here.
So are you seeing Coulter first responders in the wreckage? Have you seen that yet, or what are they doing?
They were just rushing down there, and they just kind of backed everyone up so you couldn't really see too well. But before most of them got there, you could get somewhat close to see what was going on a little bit. But thing was just nosedive, kind of dangling off the ramp there, off the track. Mm.
There were people in that third car. Obviously, it was an Amtrak train. What exactly did you see specifically?
There was one, the front of it looked like was hanging off, and there was another one piled on top of, looks like the third car was piled on top sideways. And it was kind of on top of cars, and cars running into it once it was on the ground.
So does it look like the train fell on cars below Coulter on I-5?
Yeah, that's what it appears to look like happened.
My God.
And then did I hear you say that it appeared cars also then ran into it?
That's what it looks like happened. Yeah, it looks like cars crashed into the side of it before they could stop.
Oh.
From what you could tell, were the injuries on the train or in the cars, or both, do you think?
It looks like both. It looks like it was coming from both sides there.
This must be horrible for you to have seen something like this. I mean, you sound calm, but you can't be.
Yeah, it was just right in front of it. It's really nerve-wracking, kind of sick to your stomach after seeing this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh.
Okay.
I can't imagine.
Have you seen anybody at all walking away from the train, Coulter? And anybody that appears that...
No, they have everyone pretty far blocked off. Pretty far backed up, kind of making people turn around and not letting get some room for 8 cars.
Is that what they're doing? Is the traffic, they've turned the traffic around, or is the traffic just still completely stopped there? They've shut down the Department of Transportation camera. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's pretty backed up a ways, and they're trying to get people to turn around, but mainly getting people off to the side so they can get some more help down there, is what the sheriffs were saying.
Is this an area that's home to you? Do you live in this area? Is this a part of your daily commute?
Yeah, we go down to Tacoma every day, and looks like they have every sheriff from every county around here right now.
Yeah, they've said it's a mass response. Is there anything that we didn't ask you that you could shed some light on about what you've seen down there today?
I think that's about it. It's just a mess and really catastrophic right now.
We really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks,
we
Coulter.
really do, and we hope that you're going to be okay after seeing something so horrible today, Coulter. We really appreciate you sharing with us today. Thank you.
So we
Listening to King 5's coverage out of Seattle of this train calamity that has occurred south of Seattle in the area between Tacoma and Olympia, Washington. I think DuPont is the closest town we have there. This photo, obviously taken right after the incident, you don't see any emergency vehicles there. What you see is cars that stopped where they could. According to that witness, some of those cars may have struck the wreckage. You can see with your own eyes here how it came down in the roadway itself. This is obviously a major interstate, so cars would have been likely moving at a fairly good clip when this happened. As we noted, this was a new train service. In fact, King 5, the station we were just listening to a moment ago, one of their reporters was actually on board that train and got off, obviously, prior to the impact, and it described excitement on the train. People very excited about this new service between Seattle and Portland, a high-speed train that has been underwent significant testing over the last several months, was capable of much quicker route between Portland and Seattle, but limited initially, we were told, to 79 miles an hour. Again, we don't know the speed it was traveling. This is in Pierce County. About 14 miles of track had been upgraded to accommodate this new service. Again, whether that involves the track we're looking at, the trestle we're looking at here, we simply don't know. We had seen another traffic cam shot a moment ago of cars being directed off of I-5. This is the immediate backup that was someone photographed right after the accident, so no way to go. Vehicles simply pulled off, and again, some of them may have actually impacted that wreckage. It appears only, from what we can see, only one, maybe two cars actually off the trestle, but as you look up the track a little bit, some other cars, there you go. You can see one is totally down there, another one dangling off, another one behind that appears to be perhaps upside down. NTSB is obviously monitoring this and will determine shortly whether to send a GO team, but it seems rather apparent from the photos we're getting right now that this will be a very serious accident. And likely we will be hearing something with regard to injuries, but so far nothing. Jolene Kent is in our West Coast newsroom in Los Angeles monitoring this. Jolene, what do you have?
Lester, good morning. Here on the West Coast, we're hearing this is a massive accident, and it happened near I-5 near Mounts Road on this new route. This is a route that has 14 miles of new track, and it has been new and updated track over the past several months. What we know is we're seeing on social media reports of massive damage right now. Law enforcement says people should avoid the area, and you can see why. That photo that you're seeing there shows the car hanging off onto the road. As you mentioned earlier, this is a route that is going from Seattle to Portland, a high-speed train. The NTSB right now gathering information, trying to figure out if they should be sending a team onto the scene. This is a new route that a lot of people in the area, in the Seattle area, were very excited about. This was the first service reportedly of this early route going in this particular direction. And you can see those pictures are just harrowing with the train hanging off that bridge there into the overpass. We're hearing from law enforcement that there are reports of massive damage to that area, Lester.
All right, Jolene Kent, who is monitoring reports coming in from Washington State. Pierce County along Mounts Road is the most specific address we have for where this has occurred. Now, this picture here appears to be taken from the track level, so above the Interstate 5 that we had been looking at. We learned from our partners at King 5 that the weather is not suitable to fly in, so we assume that also would apply to first responders who might be flying in, medical evacuation shoppers. There were reports of a number of ambulances moving northbound toward the scene, but you can see getting on those southbound lanes, getting to the scene may be problematic because of the sheer volume of traffic. And here's where the traffic appears to be. They're moving cars off in advance of that scene here, trying to open up some space. We don't have any estimates right now on injuries or other casualties from this accident. You can see the locomotive We believe one of those new high-speed locomotives still appears to be on the track, but the rest of the cars are twisted in various locations. This area, we were told, had positive train control. You may have heard that discussed in previous derailments. It has to do with an ability to an emergency stop of the train itself. We're told this was equipped with that kind of equipment. Jolene Kent, you have some more for us?
Yeah, Lester, that's right. We have some new information from the Pierce County Sheriff's Department, and they are saying now that the derailed Amtrak passenger train, which was going in the southbound direction, has resulted in injuries and casualties. The numbers are to come, but law enforcement continues to gravitate towards the area to respond to this. But again, this derailed Amtrak train has caused injuries and casualties. And again, this was a passenger train, a new route going the southbound direction, one of Amtrak's high-speed services. Lester.
All right, Jolene Kent, with that information, it is sad to hear, but frankly expected, given the enormity of what we're looking at and the condition of that wreckage. Let's go back to Tom Costello right now. Tom, you have covered a number of Amtrak accidents, and they have learned lessons from each of those accidents. I know it's far too early to talk about what happened here, but typically what is going to happen now in terms of an investigation?
Well, I would suspect the NTSB is going to launch a GO team pretty quickly. They're monitoring the situation now. That's as expected, but they will very quickly launch a GO team, probably from the West Coast, and then in addition to that, they're railroad experts from Washington, D.C. This is about 40 miles south of Seattle, we believe, and at the moment I-5 South is closed. Positive train control, to remind you, is an automatic braking system, which essentially slams on the brakes if for any reason the train is exceeding the posted speed limit, or if there is any sort of obstruction, or if there is any sort of a blockage on the tracks. So the fact that it comes with positive train control is very interesting, because that would, if it's working, would suggest it should have had automatic braking. Now, that doesn't account for if there was a problem, for example, with the tracks. We know that this was a brand new stretch of tracks, as we've been saying, 14 miles or so of new track for a brand new high-speed train, and they would clearly have tested that. But it would be very difficult to test a high-speed train fully loaded during the testing phase. So a lot of this is going to be part of the investigation with not only the Amtrak investigators and the NTSB and the Federal Railroad Administration as well. But at this exact moment, the focus, of course, is on the casualties. If there are, in fact, injuries, if there are fatalities, and then trying to remove all of this twisted debris off the tracks and to reopen the interstate. But at the moment, obviously, a mass casualty situation unfolding.
Tom Costello, thanks very much. And we are all seeing these pictures with a sense of shock and dread. And as we heard a moment ago from the sheriffs there in Pierce County, Washington, they are confirming there are injuries. No numbers, no word on the severity, but again, the pictures speak for themselves that this is a very serious accident. We want to update you again if you're just joining us. Train 501 between Portland and Seattle, jumping the rails on this overpass or trestle. Some of the cars coming down onto the roadway. We don't know for sure whether cars were hit or cars may have struck the wreckage. The picture's not that clear. One witness thought maybe some of the cars had hit the wreckage. But right now, the urgency is to get first responders on the scene. This stretch of roadway between Seattle and Portland, anyone who's driven it knows it is congested all the time. It's a very, very busy route, and that's why there was such excitement over this new high-speed rail that would cut the commute time and offer more opportunities for people to leave their cars behind. Obviously, the Christmas shopping season, many people in Washington state will want to cross over into Oregon to take advantage of a lack of sales tax there. So a lot of commuters, shoppers perhaps caught up in this. Let's go back to our NBC affiliate now, King 5 in Seattle, as they continue to cover it. Let's see if they have some more information for us.
Emergency crews still coming to the scene. That is an ambulance still heading to the scene right now. Not speeding, but presumably there are more injured people that still have to be treated there. Working to bring you the very latest, guys.
We do know that at least NBC News is reporting, so I'm going to say that Pierce County Sheriff's Office has confirmed injuries and casualties. And we also now have it confirmed that there are injuries in this and casualties. We just don't have numbers for you, but we do know that people have been injured in this and rushed to the hospital. So we're, again, waiting for more information about that. And also, Alex Rozier, we know, is very close to the scene, and we'll talk with him live. And he, again, was on that third car that went off the tracks and then transferred trains, as he was reporting on these trains in the expanded route of Amtrak this morning. Just incredible, eerie to look at these pictures. Jake?
Yeah, Joyce, I want to get here to the Surface Hub again, because here's where we're sort of piecing this together. This is, as you mentioned, a brand new service from Tacoma to Portland, and here is essentially where this crash happened, okay? This is right here at that overpass, I-5 southbound. Here is the straightaway, long straightaway, all the way to this point. And as I zoom in here, you can see that this is the first curve that these tracks or this engineer would have encountered for several miles. And so this is, it was traveling southbound here. This is what you're looking at, this very curve right here. So as we were presuming, there is actually a dip in the tracks there. We don't know the cause again, but this is a large curve just before that overpass, and last known speed 81 miles per hour according to the Amtrak website. As Joyce had mentioned, no word on the number of casualties, but Cam has noticed a lot of emergency vehicles traveling away from the scene, northbound, presumably lights, sirens, taking people to the hospital. Joyce.
We now know that at least some
good information there from
being taken to Madigan.
Some useful information from King 5 there about the layout of the track with regard to the interstate there that may offer some texture as we try to find out what happened. Right now, the larger issue is getting help to those who need it, and we are getting some updates now, not only from the local sheriff, but Amtrak, I understand. Let's go back to Jolene Kent in our Los Angeles newsroom. Jolene?
Hey, Lester, that's right. Amtrak coming out with a statement in these early hours after this accident. Amtrak says it is aware with an incident of train 504. The service is called the Cascade Service. It goes from Seattle to Portland, and they are on the scene right now. Amtrak management is there, and they are responding. They do confirm as well, along with the Pierce County Sheriff's Department, that injuries are reported. So right now, that service heading in the southbound direction is temporarily suspended, as you can expect, and that service from Seattle goes north and then east, and that is continuing to operate in those opposite directions. But what you see now is a real reflection of the pictures on your screen as injuries are reported, and the Pierce County Sheriff's Department is also saying casualties are reported as well, and those numbers are to come. Lester?
Yeah, Jolene, just to clarify, I think you said 504. Is it 501 is the train
501.
I have? Okay. So we're on the same page. All right. As we continue to try and get new pictures from the scene, as you can imagine, those people who were there, hopefully some of the folks there have offered whatever assistance they can, but the first responders obviously trying to get to this scene, and as we said, it is not conducive to flying helicopters right now. The ceiling was simply too low. A lot of cars to get through. We know they have been diverting traffic off that southbound 5, and you can see from the radar picture there, it continues to rain in that area. The area we're talking about, you see Seattle on the map. If you come on down, it would be in the Tacoma, between Tacoma and Olympia, roughly, so south of the Seattle area, but it looks like the entire state getting a soaking today. We want to go back to Tom Costello right now. Tom is also monitoring this. He's on the telephone. Tom, what else have you learned?
Well, I think we're just very much dependent now on local authorities to give us an update. When you've got this kind of a mass casualty situation, all of the information is, in fact, going to come from the local fire department and the sheriff's department there. In the meantime, the NTSB is obviously beginning to move. I would expect a formal activation very quickly. Federal Highway, let me say that again, Federal Railroad Administration will probably be responding. Anytime there's a major incident involving loss of life, they respond. As well, of course, as Amtrak. So this is very early moments, and the federal response at this moment is very much dependent upon what the locals are saying. Now, a state DOT spokesperson is confirming that there were 75 people on board the derailed portion of this train. We did have our local affiliate saying that there were 250 people in total on board this train. So I'm not sure if that DOT spokesperson is referring only to the cars involved. And we don't have a number of injuries or anything else of that nature.
Well, Tom, actually, Tom, we actually do have an update. It just came across here. It's from the Pierce County spokesman, Ed Troyer. He says there have been multiple casualties as a result of this derailment. The casualties include multiple injuries and fatalities. That's the first confirmation we have learned of loss of life from this derailment. It happened about 7:40 a.m. Pacific time. Those trains jumping the tracks, some of the cars, as you can see, onto the roadway. And again, we're learning there are deaths and injuries. That's the extent we have. We've got on the phone, Alex Rozier is a reporter with King 5 in Seattle. Alex, where are you and what can you tell us?
Well, Lester, my scenario here is pretty interesting because we were on the train. We just got off the train about 10 minutes before it derailed just outside of Tacoma, Washington. So here's the thing. This morning, there was a brand new rail service that started from Seattle to Portland. Amtrak added to their service early in the day. So there was a brand new 6 a.m. train that left Seattle, and we boarded that when it took off this morning at 6. We got off at right before, 10 minutes before it derailed. And all these people that we were speaking with are likely on board. And looking at the images that we're seeing, I'm waiting in traffic right now trying to get to the scene. But looking at the images that we're seeing here, it very clearly appears that the car we were on is the car that derailed here for many of these people that were headed potentially to Olympia, which is the capital of Washington, or to Portland, Oregon, here on the train this morning.
So there would have been several stops along the way. When you were on, did it appear that every seat was virtually filled?
It picked up as the morning progressed, and yes, there was a wide variety of ages. And the thing about it is that along with the people who were making commute to Portland this morning, maybe potentially for business, there were also a number of rail enthusiasts because this was a big day for Amtrak. Every single passenger got a little commemorative lanyard that they could wear announcing today as the first day for this new service. So there were many rail enthusiasts who just wanted to be a part of that historic moment. So essentially, they added a brand new train station in Tacoma, Washington, which allowed them to expand their service. And this morning was the debut of it. They had 14 miles of new upgraded track, as they call it. And we don't know if this portion where they derailed was of that 14 miles of new track, but obviously there was something that went wrong along the way to cause this morning.
Yeah, and Alex, as you're speaking, we just put up a photo. It's our first close-up shot of the wreckage, and we can see one car that appears to be upside down, totally on the roadway, another on top of it. So this is our first most graphic look at the scene of the devastation there. Alex, did you get the sensation of speed? I know this is touted as a high-speed train. Did you get a sense that this was different than any other train you'd been on that route?
Well, yeah, one of the things that they had been talking about, all the Amtrak officials, all the Washington Department of Transportation officials that we spoke with had all said that this train cut down their time. It was going to be a 3-hour and 20-minute train ride to Portland, which is the fastest that it has been since they've started their service. I think it was a reduction of only about 10 minutes, but it still was faster than their previous service. And just the fact that this happened on the first day, the very first train, is just quite shocking. And Amtrak and both the Washington State Department of Transportation have a lot of questions to answer here in the days to come.
Yeah, and just to be clear, you were on board. You were doing a story on this new service.
Yeah, we were on board. We did live shots for our local broadcast here in Seattle all morning long, and we concluded those live shots at 7 a.m. local time, and we watched that train leave the station. And minutes after we concluded that live shot, minutes after we got off that same exact train, it derailed, and now we're looking at what you're seeing right here.
Yeah, you're looking at it, and I know we're watching this tragedy unfold, and there are fatalities, but you're a reporter, but you're a person, too, who, avoided this. Can you just offer your personal thoughts for a moment, if you can?
That's been the hardest thing. I'm shaking still. The reality is that, I'm looking at the images. We were on car 3, and that appears to be, from the images that I'm seeing, potentially the car that derailed. And we met a wonderful man who was talking to me this morning, just heading to work, and he leaves Seattle every morning for a town just outside of the state capital of Washington, just outside of Olympia, and he was on board that train. He was so excited about this new early service. We saw what appeared to be two younger people. You know, it's the end of the college semester. I mean, maybe these were college students that were heading home for break. Obviously, it's the week of Christmas. I mean, it's these people, many of them potentially heading to see family and friends. So it's just, it's heartbreaking, and without question, could have been us.
Well, Alex, we're happy that you and your crew are okay. We appreciate your reporting, and we'll let you get back to your coverage.
Appreciate it, Lester. Thank you.
That was Alex Rozier from King 5 in Seattle, who, as you heard his story, he was covering this inaugural service on this Amtrak Cascades line, and it exited the train about 10 minutes before what you see on the left of the screen occurred. This derailment, one of the train cars completely off the trestle, onto the roadway bed of Interstate 5, another nose down on top of it. And in one of the earlier shots, it appeared there might have been another one that was tumbled on the other side. But the official word we got from officials there in Pierce County is that there are injuries and there are fatalities in this accident. We don't know how many. They've got to get, obviously, to the scene and assess it, and I'm sure they'll pass that information along. But the pictures, as we have been looking at, did not speak to folks getting out of this unscathed. Let's go to Tom Costello right now, who continues to monitor other sources on this. Tom?
Well, let's just remind everybody what positive train control is, and that is the technology that is on all of these major fast lines, if you will, these express lines like this one in the Northwest. It essentially automatically allows for braking to avoid accidents. That's the idea, preventing, for example, train-to-train collisions or excessive speed or even misaligned track. Now, the fact that this train had positive train control really raises some questions then, because supposedly that should have significantly mitigated the risks of an accident, at least on a stretch of track where you don't have much competition in terms of other trains. So this will clearly be of great concern to authorities as they try to discern what happened. Again, this is about 40 miles or so south of Seattle on this brand new Cascades line that goes from Seattle to Portland. We are told that this may have been traveling in the neighborhood of about 80 miles an hour or so at the time of the accident, right at a place where we believe that there is a straightaway, if you will, on the track. But all of that is very much preliminary information as the NTSB and the Federal Railway Administration and Amtrak all respond. And again, at this point, we do have a report of both injuries and fatalities right there on I-5, with I-5 South closed, and as you would expect, all southbound Amtrak traffic also closed at this hour.
And Tom, you know, on the East Coast, we have lived with and experienced a high-speed rail in the form of the Acela for some time, but that was limited by track condition.
That's right.
How critical is it that you have to replace the tracks before you can realize the full potential of these locomotives?
Well, absolutely, because they are literally, in some cases, doubling or tripling the potential speed of a train. And so they have to be able to handle volume train, fully loaded with the passenger weight, if you will, and then moving that fast, which can heat up the rails, of course, very quickly. In the case of the Northeast Corridor, they absolutely had to improve and upgrade those tracks all the way from D.C. up to Boston in order to handle the Acela line. But by the way, on the Northeast Corridor, not every single stretch of track is now upgraded. In other words, the train cannot hit its full potential along the entire Northeast Corridor. I don't have firsthand knowledge as to how much of the track there in the Seattle-Tacoma area was, in fact, and Portland was, in fact, upgraded. But you have to believe they had to do some upgrades in order to handle a speed that was approaching 80 miles per hour.
We can see in this picture here a first responder, perhaps a firefighter. There is a ladder there that's perched up toward the wreckage. So obviously they have gotten to these cars right now and are likely going through triage right now. Perhaps there will be people who need to be extricated. It is obviously a very precarious situation. There was one of the earlier photos that appeared to show smoke in the background. That car on its bottom there. It sustained a lot of damage. Hard to tell whether that is fire damage or not. But as you see that picture there, you can see what appears to be smoke in the left-hand portion of the screen. Imagine this now, this train thundering along, derailing, the cars tumbling onto the roadway, and you've got traffic there. That's southbound traffic that was moving along. We don't know if any cars were hit or whether any of those cars hit the train wreckage, but it is because we simply don't know how quickly traffic was moving. The weather, as we've been showing in the radar map, is rainy. The conditions were not good, certainly for car travel. We don't know what effect that might have had on train travel, but nonetheless, the conditions are such that they can't fly there. They can't fly medical evacuation teams. So this is a mass casualty event with a lot of departments converging on this scene. They've got to secure the wreckage. They've got to tend to the wounded, extricate them, and get them to hospitals. So what we know now is that there are injuries, there are fatalities, but beyond that, we have no specifics. Jolene Kent continues to monitor her sources for our Los Angeles newsroom. Jolene, what do you have?
All right, what we have right now is there have been multiple casualties as a result of this Amtrak derailment near Tacoma, Washington, in DuPont. This was reported, according to authorities, around 7:40 this morning. This train was going in the southbound direction. There's no official numbers right now on exactly how many injuries or casualties that we're looking at, but we do know that I-5 going in the southbound direction, the highway that you see there, is also being suspended and closed down by law enforcement. And law enforcement also saying to avoid the area due to this massive accident. But right now we don't have any specific numbers. We do know, though, this was a new rail route leaving early this morning for the first time, headed from Seattle to Portland. This is a Cascades route. It's a commuter route as well as a scenic route for Amtrak. And you may be able to see in some of the pictures we're showing you here, it's a special kind of train there that's got sort of a gold sheen on it. It says Cascades on the side. It's a special route for Amtrak. But right now we know that first responders are on the scene. There's no sense of what caused this particular accident and no numbers yet on casualties or injuries. Lester.
All right, Jolene Kent, thank you very much. If you were listening a moment ago, we were talking to Alex Rozier, a reporter for King 5, our affiliate in Seattle. He was on that train, got off about 10 minutes before the accident. He described an excitement of an atmosphere of excitement. You had commuters who were on this new 6 a.m. departure on this new high-speed train. You also had rail enthusiasts who wanted to be a part of this inaugural trip. There were souvenirs given out to people. It was a mixed crowd going along, enjoying this new service. It was promising to cut the commute between Seattle and Portland. I believe Olympia would have been the next stop as it thundered its way south. And then this happened. So you can imagine what it was like for him to learn the news that the train he was on had jumped the rails just a few minutes later. But there it is, that wreckage stretched out from on top of that trestle onto Interstate 5 itself, and the cars that are backed up with no place to go. Many of those people witnessing this horror right in front of them, and I'm sure we'll be hearing from many of them as time goes on. Tom Costello continues to join us on the telephone. Tom?
Well, Lester, unfortunately, at the moment, we're in a wait and see mode here as we wait to hear from local authorities the extent of the injuries and fatalities. And certainly everyone is hoping that the number is low, but the pictures would certainly suggest that the injuries could be quite severe, given the fact that you've got several cars that are now off the tracks on this brand new line. You will have multiple federal investigations as well as the local investigation as well. And among the questions will be, could positive train control have in any way played a role positively or negatively in this? That's that new technology that was in place on this high-speed train. If we are told that it was, in fact, in place on the train, and if so, did it function properly or not? And what might have been a contributor here? I think that they're going to be probably looking very closely at the condition of this brand new set of tracks, this upgraded section of tracks that was carrying this high-speed train.
All right, Tom Costello, thank you very much. Let us quickly update you if you're just joining us. This happened about 7:40 Pacific time this morning, 10:40 Eastern, above I-5, if you will. This train, the 501 Amtrak, part of the new Cascade service, 6 a.m. departure from Seattle, derailing as it was crossing over Interstate 5, coming off the trestle. At least one car we have seen of that train totally flat on the roadway, apparently upside down. Another one nosed down on top of it, and there was further wreckage up on the track itself. Officials there in Pierce County tell us there are injuries, there are fatalities, there are no numbers right now. We'll continue to monitor this as we get more information and events warrant. We will come back on the air. For now, I'm Lester Holt, NBC News, New York. Have a good day.
Passed the biggest tax reform in decades.
Well, the plan would be a big win for President Trump's agenda. Jenna Browder is in Washington to explain what it all means for you.
President Trump says Republicans are just days away from delivering a big, shiny Christmas gift to the American people.
This is going to be one of the great gifts